Building a staircase can be a tricky DIY project when attempting its complex measurements and cuts. Fortunately, a standard set of building codes and techniques help to take the mystery out of building stairs. These strict building and safety codes will guide the important planning and calculations you will need to make. To begin your staircase project, you must first take accurate measurements and calculate the shape and design of the staircase before purchasing and cutting the lumber. The first step is to determine the total rise, which is the height of a stairway measured from the top of the subfloor at the upper level to the subfloor at the bottom level. Use a construction calculator or a contractor's app to enter the total rise. Next, you will need to calculate the number of stair risers. For this, divide the total rise by the target riser height of 7 inches to determine the number of stair risers your staircase should have. Round up to the next whole number. Determining the actual height of each of those risers is very important. The goal is to make all the risers identical in height, but not to exceed your local code's maximum height. To calculate this, simply divide the total rise by the total number of stair risers, which will equal the actual riser height. The run, or depth of each tread, should be a minimum of 10 inches deep, and there will be one less tread than there are risers. Now, multiply the number of treads by the depth, 10 inches, to get the total run. This is the total horizontal distance the stairs will travel from beginning to end. Knowing the total run will help you determine if you should add a landing. Add a landing with a few steps if the total run extends too long. Build the landing with a minimum of 36 inches of flat flooring before the next set of stairs. You will essentially be building 2 separate sets of stairs. With the calculations done, you'll be sure to purchase the correct amount of lumber. Get good quality 2x12 lumber that is straight, dry, and with very few knots, or purchase laminated veneer lumber, or LVL. To keep the steps evenly supported and prevent sagging, space them about 16 to 18 inches apart. Using a framing square with stair gauges, you can start marking the dimensions for cutting out the notches for the rise and run. First, attach a stair gauge at the rise measurement on the narrow part of the framing square, called the tongue. Attach the other stair gauge on the blade or the wider side of the framing square where the run or tread measurement falls. Next, settle the framing square on the board a few inches away from the end, making sure that the tread or run will be along the length of the lumber. Mark the lines for each rise and run. Use a circular saw to cut along the edge of the marks on the stringer. Do not cut all the way to the intersecting point of the lines. Stop about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch short of the opposite line, then use a hand saw or reciprocating saw to finish the cut. Adjust the top riser measurement to account for the height of any finished flooring so that the height of every step, top to bottom, will be exactly the same. Now, cut the top of the stringer based on the stringer length calculation. For the bottom step, you'll need to square off the end so that it will sit flush with the ground floor. To do this, use the square to draw a line parallel to the top of the last step. Adjust the bottom riser cut on the stringer by your tread's thickness, since there won't be a tread board, and add the depth of any additional flooring material, such as tile or carpet. Make sure the height is accurate. The stringer should sit flush with the floor and also with the point at the top where it will attach to the existing structure, such as the header or a hanger board. Here, the stringer is temporarily set on the outside to test fit. It also guides the measurements for the cutouts needed to fit the first stringer, which will be along the wall. Before attaching the stringer nearest the wall, add a 2x4 to the stringer where the skirt board should settle. Now, you can use the first stringer to trace the outline for cutting the remaining stringers. For the next step, attach the stringers to the header board with the joist hangers or 3-inch screws or nails. Here, the inside stringers are set 16 inches on center. cut and lay temporary treads so that you can move up and down the stairs to complete the landing. Measure, cut, and attach the short stringers on the landing using the same methods. With the stringers installed, you are ready to cut and install the skirt board, treads, and risers. Here, we will illustrate the fine carpentry stage using a similar semi-enclosed staircase. The first step is to install the 1x12 skirt board along the wall. Set the skirt just deep enough to prevent an open gap, and be sure to take into account the thickness of the tread and riser. Make your mark at the top and bottom of the run. Then use a level to mark the vertical lines and snap a chalk line to mark the angle of the skirt board. Extend a measuring tape along the chalk line to determine the length of the board. With the gauges on the framing square set to the rise and run, mark and cut the skirt board. If the skirt will meet a baseboard along the floor, make a vertical cut here at the tip so that it will butt up against the baseboard. Slide the skirt down against the wall and secure it by nailing it into the studs. Next, cut the second outside skirt. Temporarily tack the skirt board into place. Now you're ready to scribe the returns. Using a jig will ensure an accurate outline of each rise and run. Be sure to use a level to scribe the line for the vertical rise and continue this all the way up the board until the outline is complete. Start with cutting the skirt with a 45-degree miter at the bottom cut so it will meet the miter of the first riser board. Next, cut all of the lines for the risers with the saw set at a 45-degree angle. Be sure to reset the saw for the tread cuts, which will not need to be mitered. Stop the cut about 1/8 of an inch short so that the intersection can be cleanly cut with a jigsaw or multi-tool. With the cuts completed, fit the outside skirt board and nail it securely in place. Take accurate measurements for the first couple of risers. Then set the saw at a 45-degree angle for the outside cut where it will join the mitered skirt board. Reset the saw for the inside cut against the skirt board along the wall. Prepare to install the first riser board by applying a bead of adhesive along each end of the stringers, followed by wood glue along both joining miter cuts. Now, attach the board, wipe away any extra glue, and then nail the joining edges together. Check that it's flush and level, then finish nailing the riser board with 16-gauge brads. Next, measure, cut, glue, and install the next riser board. The next step is to cut the tread boards. There will be one less tread than risers, since the top of the staircase will start with a riser below the upper floor landing. Treads must have either a built-in bullnose or rounded edge. Nosings are required to overhang at least 3/4 of an inch, but not more than 1.25 inches. Temporarily dry fit the first tread so that a pilot hole can be drilled through the back of the riser and into the tread. Be sure to apply construction adhesive on each stringer. This will create a tight bond and help prevent squeaking as the stairs settle in age. Apply a bead of wood glue along the back edge of the tread and then lay the tread into place. The next step is to screw the riser to the tread from behind by driving a screw through the pilot hole you've already drilled. This will pull the boards together and keep a tight connection. Finally, nail the tread to the stringer with 16-gauge brads. Measure and cut the next set of risers and treads, and then continue the process up to the final riser at the top of the stairs. Finally, To finish off the project, you can install a handrail or choose from many styles of newel posts, balusters, and railings. Building a staircase is a project that holds true to measure twice, cut once. Careful planning is the key to building a safe and proper staircase.